Well, the process today is that Doris has bought a suitcase full of her favourite treasures. Yeah. And the other part of the process is that I haven't seen them yet. So she's going to be like a magician and bring them out. And we've got a model here to put some of them on, which is fantastic. So I'm not sure, Doris, if you'd like questions during or after?
I think for continuity, questions during would probably be a good idea. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So if we have to cut you off during because we've only got a certain amount of time, I really apologise. Doris has to leave by 1:45, but we'll try to answer all of your questions. So Doris, shall we start the act, and what's the first rabbit that's going to come out of the hat?
Okay, so when I was thinking about this Q&A, I thought, what can I bring to show how crazy I am? Part of my decision making was, my draw to vintage clothing was not just because of the beauty of fashion and, the spirit that people infused in creating these beautiful things from the past, but is also, clothing tells a story. And if you've seen my show, you know that that's very much a part of the underlying theme of LA Frock Stars, is every garment tells a story. So the first two things that I brought, I'm going to take one thing out first that on a social level, because of my age, I totally relate to the 1960s and 70s. And it was a time when women really found their voice. So the first thing that I brought, which I could not believe my eyes when I discovered this, was, let me put this down. It's not just a t-shirt, but it's Jane Fonda.
Oh, wow.
So why is this t-shirt important? Well, for those of you that are too young to remember, Jane Fonda was a political activist before she became a really famous actress. And I think this t-shirt is from 1968. It might be from 1972. But I bought a collection of lingerie from a gentleman who passed away. Nothing was worn. And in that collection, there were 3 of these t-shirts. So I've donated one to a museum, and I'm going to be donating another to a museum, and I'm going to keep this one for myself. So that's the first thing I brought. But then, on to something a little bit more.
Can I just ask you a question about that? You're going to keep one for yourself. Does that mean you're going to wear it?
No.
I wondered that.
Yeah.
It's an investment piece that you won't wear.
Yeah, I'm kind of a purist when it comes to historical pieces or masterpieces. So since this is pristine and has no deodorant or perspiration stains, I want to keep it as such and not wear it. Besides, it's a little too small for me. It's my favorite color, but no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Has anyone got any questions about?
Yeah.
Was the lingerie that you bought off that man, was it his?
I was thinking the same thing. Thank you for asking that.
It's actually kind of it's a long story, but to make it short, yes, it was. He had 5,000 pieces of unused lingerie, and he bought it small, medium, and large. And I think the story was that he had a fantasy woman who he bought these things for, and yeah. And the story goes on, but we'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Doris.
Yeah. So the second piece that I'm going to take out is a piece that I would not torture our beautiful model wearing. It is part of the sexual revolution, and if any of you are familiar with Rudy Gernreich, I brought the monokini.
I love swimwear more than anything.
So this is actually Rudy Gernreich's monokini. And it was meant to be worn topless. Yeah, I've got goosebumps. But the thing about this that I find so wonderful is, I mean, you can see the spirit in which Peggy Moffat is wearing this. It just, women really found their voice in the 60s. And, in your face. So.
Oh, wow. I said to Doris before, I'll be really disappointed if there's no Halston, because I love Halston, and she said, there's no Halston, but you won't be disappointed. And now I see why. Wow.
Yeah, and there's another image which I love of, isn't that great? Yeah. So, I believe that was done in 1964. So when you think of contextually, that was right after Kennedy was assassinated and how prim and proper the women were back then. It really was the beginning of women's lib. So, any questions? No?
Hold it up, Margo.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of my favorite things, it's so hard to pick, but understanding the cultural background of things really makes it much more appealing. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty basic thing, but it's wonderful.
Did you actually sell quite a lot?
Believe it or not, I don't know what the numbers are, but I've seen, in my day, I think I've seen at least 30 or 40. Wow. Whether or not they were worn is the question, though, because this one was never worn. So, yeah. Yeah.
That is so exciting. Thank you, Doris.
Yeah.
How are you going to top that?
Well, another rabbit out of my hat. Okay, so now this piece, some of you may know what it is. Okay, I'm going to put this down. Margo, do you know?
It's
So,
going to.
looks like a donut, right? Just looks like a plain floppy pleated thing. But, come on over. That's the reaction I was looking for. Okay. Give me your hands.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Stick your hands up.
That's beautiful.
Okay, so let me come down here for a sec.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so the thing about this, which is so wonderful, it's Issey Miyake, and it's Issey Miyake's paper lantern dress. Do you want to walk?
Yeah, go for a little walk, Lily.
And you can change the look of it by anchoring it a different way, angling it a different way. But it's a beautiful dress. You can pack it and travel with it in the most, nothing is easier, right? And he made different versions of it, but this is the only one I've been able to find. Did you know that that's
Yeah,
what it was?
that's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
What year
Yeah.
was that, Doris?
I don't remember the year, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Have you worn it, Doris?
I haven't. I was thinking of wearing it here, but I'm feeling more comfortable with my casual Kiwi look. Yeah. Yeah, I love that piece. I just think it's so simple and so elegant.
It sure is.
Yeah, let me show you. There's different ways you can wear this. You can pull this down and wear it off the shoulder, right? You can wear it with this, yeah, like that. You can make it shorter. I mean, there's just literally a dozen ways that you can wear it.
Oh, wow. That line is just amazing.
And I don't know how many of you have seen me during this week, but I'm a huge fan of the Japanese designers. Like today I'm wearing Junya Watanabe, and the other piece that I brought that's my favorite, I'm always fascinated by construction, and I bought this piece and I'm never going to sell it. So if you look at the construction, as you hold it, it unfolds. It's a honeycomb. And it's Junya Watanabe, and it's part of her honeycomb collection. And we'll just stick this on top of the, it's a cocoon style. So let's see, let me give, sorry, I'm not so well versed on getting this on. Is this the hand? Yes, this is the hand. So. Okay. Oopsie. There you go. So you can see how organic this piece is, and it just moves. It has almost a life of its own. You know, if you look at jellyfish underwater, you can see where inspiration for creating a piece like that comes from. It's beautiful. And I think that's probably from the 90s. I don't know the years, I'm sorry. So, okay, and then, any questions, by the way?
Any questions about that? It's absolutely
Isn't that incredible?
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to put those on the dress form, so if you all want to take a closer look at it after the talk, you can actually see and marvel at how it's created. Did you?
I was just going to ask what it is made from.
It's polyester gossamer that is stitched in a way that creates these diamond patterns. I mean, just the engineering of this piece is pretty remarkable. And if you are curious enough to Google Junya Watanabe honeycomb, you will see a whole host of different styles and shapes that have been created using this particular fabric, and it's mind-boggling, really. It's where you take fashion into the art form. So,
and yet it's still so wearable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that image is, I think, from Watanabe's actual studio, which shows a sampling of the different gauges of the honeycomb holes. Yeah.
The wall looks amazing too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great fabric. So, okay, and then, let me see. I'm going to undress you because one of the favorite things that I like to do is, seek out iconic pieces, things that are like so, I guess, they speak of a moment in time, but they're also clearly identify with the designer. So I managed to find in an estate a Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress that has never been worn with her original hang tag.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? So, and especially now that in Los Angeles we had this incredible exhibit of the 40th anniversary of the wrap dress, and it really was a visually stunning presentation. And I had no idea that she created so many different versions of this, but yeah, this is the real thing. So and this one is going to be donated to LA County Museum when I get back.
Oh wow.
So, and for those of you that are fashion lovers and have a means to be able to support fashion as art, I cannot encourage you enough to donate to your museums, because it's how we feed the fire of the future.
It is.
So, take a look at how beautiful that is.
That is just fine.
I mean, classic styles that transcend time and are relevant forever. If you invest in those kind of silhouettes, you will never go broke being a shopping addict.
That's just exquisite. And of course, Diane von Furstenberg said something famous, which is, many things famous, but something I always think about, and Tanya will love this: feel like a woman, wear a dress. And this is just such a beautiful dress.
exactly.
And I bet you feel like $1 million in it, Lily.
I'm so lucky.
You are so lucky. We're all so lucky to have Doris here showing us these things.
Yeah. Any questions on this?
Has it got pockets, Doris?
No. No pockets. Yeah.
What fabric is it?
Find one of these treasures and see if it's still got the label on it and what goes through your mind, through your heart, your stomach. I mean, what?
You know, it's a really good question. For me, the addiction on my shopping and compulsive behavior is attributed to the treasure hunting, and I think it may be genetic, a defect. My mother has it, my brother has it, so I know that my parents definitely are responsible for this problem. But that's the good news and the bad news, right? This incredible dress came from literally the most amazing estate I've ever been in. And it was a home in the Carmel Valley, literally on the waterfront. And I'm going to make it a long story, not so long, because it was fascinating. I've been doing this since 1974. I've been buying vintage clothing. And I opened The Way We Wore in 1981. So you can imagine if I'm saying that this was like the best estate I've ever been in. The woman was still alive. She was in her late 80s. She married late in life. She was wealthy before she married, but then she ended up marrying a gentleman who was wealthy as well. She had a shopping problem, and I believe that she had obsessive compulsive disorder, but was not diagnosed as such. And so you won't believe this. They built a home. She had 17 closets. One of the closets, no exaggeration, was the size of this room, triple wrapped. Yeah. And what was more amazing than that, I mean, having that much volume for a single person, right, was remarkable. But what was even more amazing was 95% of the stuff in that closet was not worn. And in that closet, I got 3-piece Claire McCardle play suits with a matching dress, which went to a museum in the Midwest. I got Leonard dresses from the late 70s and 80s that had their original $3,000 price tags from back then. I got Seal Chapman cocktail dresses, and it was Bonnie Cashin complete ensembles, wool coats and matching dresses from the 50s and 60s. I mean, I could go on for an hour, but you are going to cry, because in there, she and her husband went to Hawaii all the time. There were 400 bathing suits. 400 bathing suits.
Did you buy them, Doris?
I bought. Yeah. Well, so here's the deal. Imagine walking into an estate like this, where you have an executor who has the fiduciary responsibility of getting as much as possible for the estate, and not wanting to miss the boat on it because they were getting offers. So I had been saving money to buy a building. And I'm thinking, building, estate. So guess which one?
The estate, of course.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening, the deal was, because she was such a far distance, I had already moved to LA. I said, okay, my offer is contingent on only a 17-foot truck filled. Whatever I can't fit in the truck, I don't want. And she agreed to it. So when I pulled in, LA Times newspaper was waiting for me with photographers, and they actually shot it. That's where that dress came from.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So how do you make that choice? A 17-foot truck, which obviously wouldn't, got rooms more than this. So how do you make that choice of what? I mean, to narrow it down. So you must have ripped things apart.
Yeah, I did, but it's not difficult to edit. Something spectacular versus something ordinary, because not everything in her closet was like, but a good portion of it was. So, and she had incredible hats, incredible, just everything was just incredible. And I don't think in my lifetime I'll ever see something else like that again. I missed out on the jewelry. They didn't accept my offer for the jewelry. And the jewelry, I'm telling you, to this day I cry over not getting it. So, but,
You got lots of lovely jewellery anyway, though, Doris.
yeah. Yeah. Well, but how much is enough, right?
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Good point.
So, okay, I did bring a couple of more pieces, and what I wanted to, I'm not sure, Lily, if I want you to take that off right now, so we'll hold off for just a minute if you don't mind. I brought this piece because this is kind of a symbol of how my addiction started. It's a 1920s shawl that's completely sewn on net, very fine net, and it's all hand embroidered in a polychrome, beautiful color pattern, and then it's hand knotted with a fringe. So I'm going to take it out so you can see it. What I want to do with this is put it in a frame and hang it, because it's so fragile in a way, and it's been so well taken care of that to wear it would be pretty much a travesty. It would destroy it. So hang on one second. So when you see something like this, and you recognize the hours spent in creating a work of art like this, and then you look at fast fashion, why would you want to buy something that everybody else is wearing that doesn't have the heart and soul of a piece like this? You know what I mean? And, of course, this piece is a bit, it's not fragile where I'm afraid my finger's going to go through it, but, you go buy somebody with a ring that has prongs and it's damaged. So, but it's perfect. So I'm going to leave this out for you to come and take a look at as well, because to look at it close up and realize the artistry that went into creating it, the shading of the flowers, and it takes my breath away, I never get tired of looking at things like this. So, any questions?
Where did you get that from, Doris?
This piece came from Pennsylvania. What's interesting is living in California there's not a lot of really good vintage in California because it's not that old and people travel so much. So, if you want to shop great vintage, you want to go to places where people have lived in the same house for generations. That's kind of the key. And so New England is a great place to shop. Most of the East Coast is really good. And so I got this on the East Coast. I believe these were made in Europe, but there's a Chinese version of it, which was very popular in the 1920s as well. So, today, how much would this cost to replicate? Thousands.
No, Tanya, you do a lot of embroidery. What do you think?
Is it done on silk tulle?
No, it's on a cotton
And
tulle.
is it?
Yeah, I think if it were on silk tulle, it might have
Yeah, there was
disintegrated.
one that must have been why it's still.
But the threads are all silk,
Yeah.
so it's just remarkable. So, any questions? No? God, such a tame audience.
Oh, there's one.
So will it have been done with tambour work, so it's mainly chain stitch?
No, this one is not. For those of you that don't know what tambour work is, it's you do it on an embroidery hoop and you do a chain stitch. A lot of the beading that was done on the 20s dresses is done with a tambour stitch, which is good news, bad news. It's faster, but the problem is if one of the chain stitches undoes, the whole thing opens. This is actually loop-de-loop, so it's just going around and around and around in embroidery, yeah, which is probably why it's in such good shape, yeah.
So when you go into a museum and touch beautiful pieces like this, you have to wear gloves and things are stored in a very specific manner. What's the case in your archives?
I refuse to answer that question instead of being from me. Yeah, it's kind of hard to maintain. I do have a lot of my treasures in acid-free boxes, wrapped in acid-free tissue paper, but I am a retail boutique, and to segregate some of the pieces, where it's, because the value, if something is worth over, let's say $5,000, I'm a little bit more picky about how things are stored. But the things that are under $5,000, I have to kind of surrender and not be so picky.
That's great. That's very pragmatic. It also means that people can come and touch it and actually feel what it's like.
Yes, and I think that the ability to see these things firsthand, to touch them, and then to tell the story, because my staff loves, vintage as much as I do. I think it does propel people and, perpetuates the interest and the respect so that these things can continue to live on for a while. Yeah?
The Diane dress, it's got the label on it. Is that not for sale?
That dress is not for sale because I promised it to LA County Museum. In fact, when I went to the pre-opening of the Diane von Furstenberg exhibit in LA, I brought that with me and I had Diane sign it to LA County Museum. So you'll see her signature and autograph on the inside. Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then the last thing that I have in here, it's when you see avant-garde innovators like Isanyaki and the greats today, but when you go back and you recognize the importance of people like Paul Poiret at the turn of the century through pretty much the late 20s and 30s, you develop an eye and an appetite to find those innovators from that time period, right? And I came across a designer or a store that I'd never heard of before. This piece is from the late 1920s. It's made with a really beautiful, fine tissue lame, and it was a woman who clearly was inspired by Poiret. So I'm going to put this down. Hang on. Okay, so why is this incredible?
Oh, wow.
I mean, first of all, women didn't wear pants until the 30s, and it was beachwear. Second of all, it has this incredible design on the leg where it's a wrap.
Oh, wow.
So it's like Middle Eastern inspired in a way. But, I mean, can you imagine the woman who wore this in the late 20s? I can't. I mean, I just want to be her. So, yeah, I brought this because this blew my socks off. And I found only two things on the internet. Madame Najila Mogabgab. She had a store in New York and a store in Palm Beach.
Wow.
And I just recently bought my second piece with her label in
wow.
it. Yeah. So I'm going to be I think I'm going to be a collector for things because I'm a huge fan.
That is
Isn't this
just
incredible?
amazing.
Yeah. And it has a side snap. So, but everybody thinks jumpers are, new and innovative. Not. Yeah. So
That is just so...
28 to 30, definitely. Yeah.
That is actually mind-blowing because it's someone
Fearless.
that we've never heard of before, cutting and conceptualizing something that's just so way ahead of her time.
And look at how well it's finished. There's a lot of bias work that's rolled. The edges are rolled, hand finished. I mean, yeah.
Look at the label.
The label.
It's so sweet.
And the lining, it's in such beautiful condition. So, yeah, I just thought, I was thinking we would put it on you, but it might be a little too difficult to slip on.
Could you hold it up so you can see the top?
Sure.
We haven't got a dummy with legs?
No. Shall we see if we can put it on
Oh,
there?
please.
Yeah, would you like to see it? Yeah? Okay.
Wow.
Where did you find
That
it?
fabric.
I bought this at auction in New York. And it was pretty heavy competitive bidding because I wasn't the only one that recognized what a treasure it was. Damn it.
And will you donate that to a museum?
Eventually, yeah. I mean, there are certain pieces that I want to keep to fondle. Truth be told. But, yeah, eventually I think. Let's see. Okay. So you're going to have to step into this. So I'm going to let you control it. How's that?
So fragile, yeah.
It's not really fragile.
Is it not?
No. just not the simplest style. It's 2 layers of wrapping around the leg, which is what's stopping us.
Where do you think it was designed to be worn? Do you think it was day wear or evening?
No, I
or
think it was
beach or-
evening. I mean, if you've ever seen like Paul Poiret's parties,
Yeah.
you know, the decadent
That's what it
kind
looks
of,
like.
yeah.
And he brought his garments to the States too, didn't he, and sold them in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Is it too small?
It's too small.
Yeah, it's too small. Well, that's shocking. Okay, good to know, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty tiny. Yeah. But you know, it's also the closures are it's before zippers, so you know there's yeah. So I'd have to probably open this a little bit more on the side for access. But yeah, I'll leave this out so you can all look at it when we're done.
So Doris, that's probably something that's not in your shop, but in the famed archives next door. I can imagine a designer coming in and looking at something like that and being able to base a whole collection not only around the fabrics and the fabrication, but particularly on the pattern making for that. That's so innovative.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the archives?
Oh, how many of you have actually seen the show? Wow, great. Wonderful. Okay, so for those of you that haven't seen the show, I have 2 storefronts, the main boutique and then the space next door, which we call the Inspiration Room. In the Inspiration Room, there are, I'm not exaggerating, over 1 million pieces. So if you were to say that I suffer from OCD, you are not far from the truth. But in fairness to me, when I say pieces, we're talking about like fabric swatches, prints. I have print books that go from 1830 to the 1970s. I have fabric samples that show surface design like concepts for blouse fronts or embroidery samples. And typically, like just before we started, I got a call from the store. And
Oh, I heard. Is that Ralph Simon? Wait, Tanya, did you just hear that?
well, yeah, they called to find out if we could bill Christian Dior and let the designer leave with the items without paying. So we get designers literally from around the world that come to shop Inspiration in the space next door. And it was not Ralph Simmons, it was a guy named Serge. I don't remember the last name, but he works directly with Ralph. So, but yeah, we've had the great privilege of working with everyone from Nicolas Gisquière to Martin Margiela himself before he retired, to the design teams from Marc Jacobs and even Trelise Cooper. A lot of the Aussies come to my Inspiration area, Nikki Zimmerman. And, you know, I feel really blessed because when you deal with working with creative people and you see that spark when you hit the nail on the head, it is actually better than the money that you make because you know you're feeding creative fire, which is really very rewarding. So, yeah. Yeah.
I'm just wondering about the next layer, like the last garment you showed. That's a designer that we don't really know anything much about.
Mm-hmm.
But how important is that level of designers and creativity? And what about stuff that women have made for themselves?
That's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that. As a collector, my brother's a collector of photography, and years ago he started acquiring anonymous photography, and that has actually gone into a whole different realm of value now. I really think, how can I put that? I think that as a collector, value is in your eye, and as a single item, it may not show the true value, like if I just showed that one piece, but as a grouping, like if I start collecting several of this boutique or this designer's things, that's where it begins to really gain value. So, yeah, I love buying anything that's special. It doesn't have to have a known name attached to it. Yeah.
But you also love labels, Doris, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I love, listen, an ugly Chanel is an ugly Chanel.
That's true.
So, you know, I mean, you really need to have a discerning eye.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah.
Is there anything that you're collecting that's very recent, like over the last couple of years? I know that obviously everyone will be collecting Alexander the Queen, for example.
Yeah.
But is there any others that you've got your eye on that you know that are going to be just as great in 2 years or 50 years?
Yeah, I've personally been collecting Chateau Ralph Rucci, who's an American designer who is as close to haute couture as you're going to get. His things were extremely expensive in the department stores. So if you can buy them on the secondary market, you're getting a bargain. And, you know, I've bought things like from Zach Posen's first collection. I tend to look for, I would love to get Rodarte and early Rodarte. I would love to get some of Hassan Chalayan's crazy pieces.
Yeah.
I don't have any of those. You know, I'm a huge fan of Gareth Pugh's and Iris van Herpen, but that's where you get into fashion as art, I think.
Yeah.
And my home is not big enough to support displaying the pieces that I would be buying. So, I don't know. I have to get a mansion, I guess.
Do you ever go through your own things that you've bought and find stuff that you've forgotten you had? You're like, ooh, I actually own this.
In the store, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do in the store, but in my own personal closet now.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty practical when it comes to my own wardrobe. Yeah. Unfortunately. I mean, if I look like Lily, I think I'd have a serious problem. Yeah.
That was another question.
I was just going to say that I love, you were talking about art and clothing and that connection, and just with your shopping addiction things, it reminds me a little bit of Warhol, because I know he used to just go out and buy boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff that were never opened, and, you know, part of, I guess, commenting on society is that engagement, and it's just really interesting to see that connection and have that made.
Yeah, I mean, the sad truth is that I have a justification for my addiction.
You do.
So I do.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you were to take that justification away, I'd need to go into years of therapy. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's another.
Yeah.
Do you have much competition now, like other companies that are doing the same things as you've been doing for so long? Like when I watch a show and I see the others bidding at the auction, do you know all of them and what they're about and how to get ahead of them?
Yeah, okay, so the first question is, there is a lot of competition in the vintage clothing world, but there's really nobody that does it the way I do it. They either have a vintage clothing store or they have an inspiration or document business. And the few that have kind of a melding of both are clearly not as sick as I am. So I feel like my competition doesn't really exist. I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Do you know a lot of them and what they're doing?
Oh, the people bidding against me, right, yeah. I do know a lot of them. In 90% of the cases, it's friendly competition with mutual respect, and the 10% don't exist.
There's another question down there.
What I'm really interested in is, at what point in your life did you know that this is what you were going to do? Like, were you a child that was drawn to beautiful things? As a small child, did you love beautiful dresses, and did it just, and how did you, excuse my French, get enough money to start this?
Yeah, well, if you know my backstory, I don't come from money. My parents had a very unfortunate, a bad split, and I started working when I was 15. And so dressing in vintage in the 60s was an affordable way to dress myself, but you never would admit that you bought the things in thrift shops because that would be an admission of poverty. But luckily for me, this circumstance happened at a time where dressing in a bohemian way was part of life, you know, being a hippie. So, yeah, addressing the financial thing, I learned to sell and to buy by selling at the flea markets in San Francisco. And I started in 1974 selling at the Marin City Flea Market over the Golden Gate Bridge. And in 7 years, I got sick and tired of the bartering and the weather and the loading and the unloading, and decided that I needed to open up a store. So it was an evolution. The store in '81 was very modest. It was very small. And I opened the store with, I believe it was $8,000 back then. It might have been $10,000, but it was definitely not more than $10,000. So it's been a passion, you know. And when you work from passion, you're successful, regardless. So
true.
yeah.
Can I ask you, Doris, that since you've had your program on TV, have you noticed a change in clientele or an increase in clientele?
Complicated question. The show, my theory is that the second season is going to show a big difference. Yeah. The first season, I noticed some things, like the Chicago estate in season 2, if you've seen the show, was a direct result of the estate liquidator seeing season 1. So that was definitely a wonderful gift. Yeah. But just as recently as 3 days ago, Wallace Annenberg, I don't know if you are familiar with TV Guide. It was a big deal in the States when television became a big deal. The Annenbergs founded TV Guide. Wallace Annenberg was in the store, and she came in specifically because she loves the TV show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we get feedback that the show is generating more fan visits and emails and correspondence than income, but that's fine, you know. It is what it is. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, this.
Yeah.
What's the value of your entire collection that you hold on to?
You can't even think about it. You know, when I send a package, let's say, to a VIP client that's a box that's, you know, a normal size, and that box is $50,000, and I still have a whole store and a space next door left, I can't even imagine what the value of my inventory is. And it has nothing to do with what I paid for it, because it's really what the market will bear, you know. And it's not to gouge the public, but really to offer a fair price for items that you'll never find again. I hope. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah?
Yeah, I've got one.
Sorry.
You mentioned you donate to different museums. Is that because they've got, I've been to Washington and I've seen the president's jacket.
Oh, at the Smithsonian?
The Smithsonian. How do you make that decision about, is it because they've got history with that individual, or is it because that's not in a collection, or?
I don't make the decision of what to donate. I mean, that's not totally accurate. I ask museums, what are they looking for? So if they have a focus on, if they're looking for French haute couture, if they're looking for American history, if they're looking, whatever their criteria is, because every museum has a mission statement. And it's a lot of responsibility to take one piece in, because you have to conserve it, you have to store it, and so the accession process is very complicated. So if they're going to take and accept a donation, it better be something they need.
I guess I was thinking, do you have favourite museums, or do they?
Yeah, I believe in supporting my backyard, so I typically donate more to like the fashion schools, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. I donate every year to LA County Museum. When I lived in San Francisco, I donated to the Diem Museum. But I've also donated to museums that really put an emphasis on fashion. So Indiana Museum, IMA. I'm now getting involved with Minneapolis as soon as I get home because of the show. They've discovered me. So yeah, I mean, it changes. Yeah, and if I move, I'm sure I'll change my loyalty again, you know.
When you were starting out, how did you know to go to the estates of deceased people, and how did you approach those people?
It's a different game now. When I started out, I'm a hard worker, and that's something I'm very proud of. But I'm also at an age now where I don't want to be a hard worker anymore. But back in the days, I mean, I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and wait in line to get into estates. Nowadays, in the States at least, I hear, because I don't do it anymore, I get private invitations because they know I'm a power shopper. But nowadays, people go at midnight, sign up on a list, and they wait in their cars. So it's very competitive, and with the internet, people are always looking for, you know, merchandise to post on eBay or whatever. So I'm glad I don't have to play that game anymore because it's a little too competitive for me.
A lot of people tonight here will be seeing the show tonight and tomorrow. And you've brought some amazing pieces to show there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when we're looking at them, we're going to be looking at these amazing dresses. Could you are there any special stories behind any of the dresses that we'll be seeing?
Yeah, the theme of my runway collection is what you might see on the red carpet. And so I selected 18 pieces from 1920 to 2000, actually 1926 to 2000. And the very first piece, which is a beaded flapper dress with fringe, it's a classic, iconic flapper dress, was a piece that I acquired from Keith Holman, who's in season 2. He's the gentleman that came in with Michael Jackson's Crystal Glove. And I don't know where this guy finds this stuff, but I've gotten some amazing things from him. And then there's an ostrich feather dress that came from the Chicago estate that's in season 2. Several of the pieces came from the Whitaker auction. I get brilliant evening gowns from both the Whitaker and the Augusta auctions. So yeah, there'll be quite a few pieces from that as well. Yeah.
And there is Halston, isn't
Yeah,
there?
yeah, there is Halston.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I saw the list before Doris came out. Amanda Milne had it, and I just saw blue, one-shouldered Halston
With
dress.
rhinestones. Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Can't wait to
beautiful,
see that.
beautiful dress. Yeah, yeah. I think you'll like, if you come to the shows, I think you'll really be pleased with the elegance and the drama of the choices that I made. So.
Those lucky models.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, vintage shopping is a really sustainable way to live your life because you're honouring the maker, and today is Who Made My Clothes Day. What are your feelings on sustainability in vintage?
So important. I mean, they're saying that, you know, those people that don't believe in global warming probably also don't believe that Nazi Germany was existing. It's mind-boggling to me. But, you know, in the 21st century, people don't truly value what they have. And I think the beauty of vintage clothing and also repurposed clothing is to really value what you have and to give it a second life or a third life. And if something has a moth hole, be creative. Cut the sleeve off, put something else on it, or don't. Make it a sleeveless thing. If something has a stain, figure out how to get rid of it, or do some kind of alteration. At this point, my business is a pure vintage business. We don't repurpose or redo things, but I do foresee down the road having, needing to do that and having no objection to it whatsoever.
But there are some things you wouldn't touch.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a purist in that as well. Yeah. Yeah, you don't alter a Christian Dior New Look suit. You don't alter. Yeah, no. Yeah.
But you can wear your Christian Dior a different way. I remember one of the episodes with Dita Von Teese when she came in, and she just loved the undergarments and the underpinning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very few people can get away with that. I mean, she's got a body, like, unbelievable. Yeah.
And she comes in and uses your garments quite a lot. You let her wear your garments. But does she come in and also draw inspiration for her own underwear collection?
Yeah, Dita's definitely one of the designers that comes in for inspiration. She has a lingerie line that I believe is made in Australia. She has a really good eye for what works for every body, for every female form. She's not just focusing on the slender, typical LA body. You know, she works with all kinds, which is really wonderful. I don't like being prejudiced against. Yeah. Full-figured ladies.
Fantastic. I'm just looking at my other questions. Yeah, I'm sure there's more out there. Oh, there we go.
I'd really like to know about the kinds of accessories that you find, because they seem to me to be as important as the actual garments, because that's how women varied their clothing when they didn't have very much.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have comments on that?
Yeah, I do. I think accessories are a huge part of my business. I'm not a time warp dresser, so I don't like to wear, you know, a 50s suit with 50s shoes and 50s purses. Some people carry that off. That's their identity. That's not who I am. But the sad reality is, being a retailer, I have to really focus on things that will sell, because the last thing I need to do is accumulate more. And as much as I love, let's say, 20s beaded dresses, purses, they don't sell. So what does sell, interestingly enough for me, is primarily the 70s and 80s accessories. That means the bigger, the most garish, you know, getting to the point of it being so outrageous, it is almost cartoony, it sells. No understated brooches. I need statement pieces. So yeah, that has been a real learning curve for me, moving to LA and having to change my buying. Yeah. Shoes, oh my God, we sell so many shoes. And 90% of the shoes that we sell have never been worn. So the women in LA are shopaholics.
But when it comes to shoes, the women love shoes. Women love shoes. We love shoes. Don't we?
I bought 150 pair just before I left from one woman, never worn. Some of them with $1,400 price tags, and sadly, it was not my size. Yeah, they were all size 7, 7.5, and I wore an 8.5. So, oh well. Any other questions?
Doris, I know that you dress a lot of stars. Do you shop with a star in mind? Do you have them on your books as clients, or do you shop thinking there's Academy Award season coming up, I need to have lots of gowns, and potentially who might the nominees be, and who might then come into the store? Or how do you think about when you're shopping for, when you're at the auctions, do you think in the anticipation of who might buy them?
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, I don't typically shop Academy Award gowns for celebrities, because they're taken care of by the big houses, and I can't compete with that. But, you know, I do buy for Adele. I do buy, you know, for certain, I love buying things thinking of Florence Welch. Oh yeah, and then my one favorite person to shop for is Daphne Guinness. Mm-hmm. She's a huge client and someone that I love to see and to work with. I think she's probably one of the most important fashion icons living, besides Iris Apfel.
Yeah. So Iris is coming to your shop next week?
On Monday, yeah, and I'll still be in New Zealand.
Have you met Iris before?
No, and she's 92, so I think that my window of opportunity, you know, it's like I was saying, oh, poor Doris, I'm in New Zealand. So, but I'll have Sarah take photographs.
So is she part of an episode that's being filmed?
No, we're not taping right now. I mean, fingers crossed we have season 3, because it's over right now. But she's coming in with LA Times fashion editor Booth Moore, and they're actually videotaping the visit.
Oh wow! So we might be able to see it online.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah.
Are there any celebrities that you have in mind that you're eyeing after? Anyone in particular that you're looking at their collection thinking, yes, I'd like to get my hands on some of that?
Honestly, no. That's almost like a closed door. Because so many of the celebrities don't want people to know that they're selling their things. And they would have unrealistic expectations, and without the provenance, you really can't get the price. So yeah, that's a whole different part of the secondhand clothing world. I don't do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, there's a, like on your site, there's a, you can buy things online.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to expand that, or are you going to grasp all the people down here? Are we able to get our hands on the goodies?
I didn't ask her to ask that question, by the way. We just changed our website from just being informational to actually having a Shopify cart so that we can do e-commerce. And it's recent, so we only have maybe, 150 pieces up because it's so time-consuming. But we have been selling on the luxury website, firstdibs.com. If you're familiar with it, it's 1stdibs.com. And we've been on that website for 4.5 years, and I'm stunned at the places that we sell our things as a result. I mean, places that we never would have had access to.
For instance?
For instance, well, Singapore, Turkey, a lot of sales in London, France, Switzerland. I mean, our sales are over 6 figures with First Dibs, which is significant. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's definitely I'm glad I made that decision 4 years ago to do it. Yeah.
First Dibs is amazing.
Yeah. And for those of you that look for inspiration, if you're designers, I would say First Dibs is a great website to actually troll because most of the vintage clothing that's posted, there's multiple images of the garment. So you might be inspired by a pocket detail or, a closure, there's a lot to look at there.
Yeah, their photography is amazing.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Doris, do you ever source clothing from overseas? Do you go beyond American borders? And what do you find?
I used to source overseas. I used to go to the French auctions. There's this magical building in the 9th arrondissement called Drouot. It's an auction house, and it's 4 floors. And every week, I believe they have 30 to 40 auctions every week. So it might be a castle, a chateau, everything. It might be just vintage clothing or garden statuaries or paintings or whatever. But if you go through there while you're in Paris, you can get some incredible treasures. So I used to go there, but because the euro is so much stronger and with customs and duty and expenses of getting there, I don't do it anymore. I buy primarily in the States. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just wondering on your show, when the guests come on and they have someone looking for a prom dress or a wedding dress, is that pre-organised that they're going to be filmed, or are they just randomly coming off the street and the camera crews there?
A combination of both. The show is not scripted. It's spontaneous in terms of the interaction, but you can't just have a camera rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. So in the case of the prom dress scenario, Mia Sarah, who is the godmother of Irene that came in, Mia actually called me and said she wanted to come in and shop for a prom dress with Irene, and I said, would you be open to being filmed? In the case of a stylist coming in to do an editorial pull, that's spontaneous in most cases. Yeah. Yeah.
Has anybody in New Zealand approached you about buying their vintage collections?
No.
While you've been here?
No. Nobody has. I've gone to only 2 stores, one vintage and one thrift shop. And hopefully there'll be some time after my duties for Fashion Week. Yeah, I don't know. Any other questions? No?
It's not a question, but I read the natural history of us, and I actually saw the program being made.
Ah.
I mean, it meant nothing to me. But I thought, well, and I wanted to stay there, but I had to look at other things. And then you came on television, and then you came here to Dunedin.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm your personal friend.
Thank you. You know, I was destined to come to Dunedin. I think, you know, I said this yesterday, I really feel I have a past life connection here. And it's only been magnified by the friendships that have been really forged in the 4 years since NHNZ contacted me. You guys don't realize what an incredible production company they are. I have to say, in the 11 years I've been in LA, I've been approached by probably close to 100 production companies to do a television show. And I picked NHNZ because of their integrity and because of God bless my intuition. Speaking to John Crawford and Anya Durling in the beginning, they are hands down after 4 years, I can say I have not one complaint to make about, you know, and I'm just the talent. So I have a right to bitch. But I have to say that it's been the most amazing experience. So you should really be proud of the fact that in your own backyard you have a production company that I wish was in Los Angeles.
That's just brilliant, Doris, and I'm so happy that you do have that relationship, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Exactly, it's true. Yeah.
I think that's probably a fitting point to thank you, Doris. I think you've been very inspiring, and I think you've blown away the image of, you know, smelly, moth-eaten that a lot of people think of. And we've seen some amazing garments. And if you haven't seen LA Frock Stars, it's actually screening at the moment on Vibe on a Saturday afternoon, I think like 4 o'clock. So you can watch it tomorrow. Or is it 5 o'clock? I can't remember. So it's actually, the first series is currently on. And if you haven't got tickets for tonight's show, there are a few still left, and they're on sale at the Golden Centre. And I think there might only be 1 or 2 left for tomorrow night. Because I think we're all now, I mean, we were anticipating Doris's show, but I think even more so now. I mean, we've seen some amazing gems. Wow. I think poor Margo is still, her jaw's still dropped. But it's just, I mean, Doris, you've just been so generous with your time and what you've brought, and just your insight. It's been, you know, really, I mean, I think we've all come away with and learned a lot. So thank you so much, and thank you, Margo, for facilitating that. And I would just like you all just to, you know, to show our appreciation.